Welcome to Creator Upload, your creator economy podcast. I'm Lauren Schnipper.
And I'm Joshua Cohen. Lauren.
What?
Are you going to watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, of course.
Who are you rooting for?
I guess the Patriots.
You guess?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like super excited about either team. I mean, Jaguar fan over here, as you.
Yeah. We don't have
I
to
danced
know
in
the whole
the
thing.
first official
Oh my God.
game in the
Seriously?
pre-show, in the halftime show. Well, I mean, we said Jaguars and NFL, so I feel like it's like at this point, if I don't mention this, like it's actually like people are gonna think something's wrong. So go on.
I've never heard that before. It's incredible. I'm a Bears fan.
The best part is when Josh, I do say something that Josh has never heard, and it's actually kind of interesting. He's like, why do you like repeat the same stories all the time? And you had this like nugget that was fascinating. And I was just like, peel the onion, man.
And Lauren's just like, what? I never told you?
Yeah. Sorry, you're a Bears fan? Why are you a Bears fan?
My dad's from Chicago.
Oh, I don't know if I knew that. Okay.
There we go. Lost to the Rams. Heartbreaking.
That was bad.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
In any case, you know who else is prepping for the Super Bowl?
Tell me.
Salesforce and Jimmy MrBeast Donaldson.
Oh, what a combo. Go on.
So here's the deal. Super Bowl, as you know, Lauren, as all our listeners know, lots of good ads.
Sure.
Jimmy MrBeast Donaldson
Yes.
put out a tweet
Uh-huh.
and said, hey, I have an amazing idea for a Super Bowl ad. If you're a brand that has Super Bowl ad inventory or is going to make one, let me know. Hit me up. I want to make your ad. Mark Benioff responded to that tweet in something that they both claim was not scripted. And I believe that. Kind of cool. From there, it's been an incredibly calculated.
Did he respond publicly? Like, did we see this?
Yeah, publicly. Like
What
on
did he
Twitter.
say? What did he say?
Mark Benioff publicly replied on Twitter and said, hey, let's go. Invited Jimmy MrBeast Donaldson over to Salesforce HQ. He met with the marketing team, and the marketing team said, hey, we're game. You got to follow 2 rules. 1, it has to be legal, and 2, it has to feature our products. He's like, okay, bet. Now they're off to the races. And what I think is super cool about this partnership is creators are used to hype, are used to building in public, are used to promoting their big events weeks, if not months in advance through a variety of different social media channels. They really use the sawdust that gets left on the floor from them crafting whatever thing they're building, and they sprinkle it around before that final build is revealed. They're very good at that. We haven't seen that happen a lot in the area of Super Bowl commercials.
Sure.
There's been teasers. There's maybe been trailers for commercials. Commercials are increasingly being seen earlier, pre-Super Bowl, so they can get more hype, and then you see them at the big game.
I find that so bizarre that like they debut them oftentimes before the actual game, which seems.
But what I think is really cool about this is they're really tapping into this build it in public hype ethos. And so there's been a multitude of videos that have been released on both the MrBeast channels on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and more. And also on Slack's and Salesforce channels, you know, because Salesforce acquired Slack. They're a component of this Super Bowl ad as well. And they're really great too. And they're doing these behind the scenes of the making of this commercial, how it came to be, and just like expectations of what to see in the commercial. I think it's genius. It's the best like marketing scheme I've ever witnessed for Super Bowl ad.
Marketing for marketing's sake, like for marketing the marketing that's going to happen. So
yeah.
It's so crazy. I was like talking to somebody the other day about Project Greenlight, which was the first time ever. And for those that don't know, it was a Matt Damon and Ben Affleck had just won the Oscar for Good Will Hunting, and they were these like effectively total no names before that until they sort of won this Oscar, and they started a show, a docuseries on HBO that was also starring their producing partner Chris Moore, who ultimately produced the movie that Shane and I did together. Shane Dawson mostly wrote and directed and starred in, that I produced. And, you know, Chris went on to do American Pie and all that fun stuff, but he had produced Good Will Hunting and he was their partner. Anyway, it was the first time ever they were like, it was a competition for an indie filmmaker, and then you got to see a docuseries about the making of a movie. And until then, there was zero access to behind the scenes content about the making of movies or anything. Like, it was so groundbreaking at the time. And here we are 100 years later, and now we're seeing the behind the scenes and making of a big Super Bowl ad. And it's just like, that's literally where it started. Like, there was really nothing, I mean, certainly not to the extent, like, a series dedicated to it or whatever. And then it became its own entire genre, like BTS. And I mean, I think it's like, just like taking a moment to understand like where that came from, the origins of that, I think is really, it's kind of fascinating. And because those guys, for all intents and purposes, were like independent creators. If they had coming up today, they would be doing their stuff on YouTube, right? Like, you couldn't make a movie like Good Will Hunting today. You can't make money in that, like on a movie like that in theaters. It would be streaming only.
I mean, yes, to a certain extent, Lauren. I mean, they did have the power and might of peak era Harvey Weinstein behind them with Miramax Films that helped them get the Oscar nomination and eventual win.
Yeah, they got that. That was distribution and stuff like that. I don't think that he was producing it. No, yeah, no, but they were. Yes, but I'm talking more about the idea of these. They were literally, because like I know a lot about that whole origin story. And like the year before, they were like at home in some shitty apartment outside of Boston watching the Oscars. The next year, they were like winning Oscars. So
okay, fair.
I'm just saying it's less about that. It's more about like that was the first time that BTS was like actually its own genre. And I think that that's really fascinating.
What's really cool about this is it's behind the scenes, but then they're also making the behind the scenes into other pieces of marketing.
Yeah.
Like there's this
everything is content.
Right, but into a fleshed out, polished piece of marketing too. So there's the raw, okay, I'm Jimmy MrBeast Donaldson. I'm at Salesforce HQ, going up the elevator, talking to people on the marketing team, etc., with my camera in my hand, and it's pointing up at me from an odd angle while it's sitting on the conference table while I'm talking to all these people. Yep. And then there's this really well-polished MrBeast runs on Slack ad that is all over Salesforce and Slack channels that talks about how they're creating this commercial and they could have never been able to create this commercial if they didn't have the powers of Slack inside MrBeast HQ. Yeah. And that is its own polished piece of content. It's fascinating, these different layers here.
Totally fascinating. Before we get started on our first big story, I wanted to note that we have Madison Weaver on the podcast today. She's the co-founder and CMO of the Creator Society, which is a management company. But more specifically, she's coming on to talk about this really fascinating Off-Broadway show that started essentially on TikTok with TikTok creators and how the power of social can help you build businesses off the platform. And in this case is Off-Broadway, which we all know, like, I love the theater. I love Broadway. I love Off-Broadway. So this really speaks to me. So excited to have her chat. Also on the podcast this week, we have Ross Habif, the Chief Strategy Officer at Dhar Mann Studios. They had 2 huge announcements this week, and I'm really excited to dig into the details with him. First up, though, before we get to that, we have not talked about TikTok and its, doom or undoom or whatever in a very long time, because frankly, it was just getting boring. Like, are they selling? Are they not? Like, nothing was happening. Something's happened. So officially on January 23rd, the social media platform TikTok has said that its U.S. arm has been bought by a consortium led by Oracle Group, formalizing the deal outlined by the Trump administration in September. The sale is meant to comply with the law that was signed by Joe Biden in 2024, the Protecting Americans from Foreign and Adversary Controlled Applications Act. Let's also zoom out. Just remember, the reason that this was happening, the reason why TikTok needed to be banned or sold is because the bipartisan U.S. government on both sides of the house, based on information, let's arguably say that is maybe not available to the sort of everyday public, concluded that TikTok was effectively a Chinese listening device in your pocket. Like it's like a foreign adversary is controlling this. They're controlling the algorithm. They're controlling what you see, what you don't see. And learning all of these things about you, data. The whole thing was about data. That's how they really got this law passed. That they were claiming they weren't collecting data on kind of U.S. Citizens, and like this is arguably saying that they were. But the controversy around this is that this was meant to the deadline was meant to be January 20th, 2025. With the option to extend. Biden extended. Trump has extended and extended and extended. I guess and of course the irony being that he was the one that initially sort of set this off back when his first time of being a president. This time he was sort of much more favorable opinion of the app. One could maybe argue because he became very popular on it. So I think his goal was to keep it alive, but not under quote unquote Chinese control. So the deal was that it mandates that Chinese owner ByteDance reduce its ownership of TikTok US to less than 20%. And so where we are, we have Oracle, private equity firm Silver Lake Management LLC, Abu Dhabi-based investment company MGX. Is that better than Chinese? I don't know. You decide. Each with a 15% stake, and then there's other investors, including Michael Dell, the founder, of course, Dell Technologies. And this new entity will be responsible for moderating content on TikTok, protecting the data of U.S. users. It will be governed by a new 7-member majority American board. Shu Chu, who is the chief executive officer, will continue running ByteDance's most valuable asset globally, which is TikTok, and will have a seat on the board. And Adam Presser, TikTok's head of U.S. operations, trust and safety, will helm the U.S. venture as its CEO. So this is all happening right now. And then there's been some fallout from this transition that's happened over the last week. But let's pause for a minute. You want to talk about the just the change of control here, Josh?
To be clear, this deal doesn't encompass the whole of TikTok or the whole of U.S. TikTok. What's carved out are arguably 2 of TikTok's other most valuable assets, in addition to its algorithm. TikTok shopping and TikTok advertising. Those are still going to be controlled on a global basis by Beijing.
Yeah, and the critics of this, because one of the things is like, we've had people on here in this podcast analyzing like what the possible outcomes for TikTok were, and one of them, I remember someone saying, it was like one of the things could be like basically the Trump administration just saying like this complies with what the law is, and the truth is critics are sort of saying that it doesn't really comply, right? And it's like, is this enough? Is this enough U.S. sort of control? Who's to judge? Like, who's to say? You know what I mean? There has been a change that's been made. The Chinese government has yet to comment on this, and historically, the Chinese government was like, "Hell no, ain't letting this happen." So, if they're not commenting and they're letting this happen, it doesn't make me feel so much like this is changing enough to assuage any sort of concern. So, I don't know. It's one of those things that's like it feels like purposely complicated that like we won't really know if this is actually like, if in fact there is a threat, if in fact this is sort of mitigating that threat. Unclear. People are sort of complaining that since this sort of transition, which has just sort of happened, that certain content is being suppressed on the platform. And of course, like, if one thing TikTok is really good for, it's a conspiracy theory for conspiracy theory. Now, maybe this is true, maybe it's not. I worked at Facebook, as people know, and people always talked about, shadow banning and stuff. And internally, that was supposedly not a thing, like at all. Like algorithm, people don't understand algorithms and how they work, and just because you went viral yesterday doesn't mean you're going to go viral today. But notably, State Senator Scott Wiener, Democrat from California, who's running for Congress, said on X that he had posted about legislation that would allow lawsuits against ICE agents, for example. And Mr. Wiener said the post was sitting at 0 views, and I'm not the only person this is happening to. And creators have been mentioning this too. So there is the thought that now this is sort of controlled by Trump and his allies, and now they're controlling the platform. I don't think that that's smart. I don't think that that's like, I mean, I think that, TikTok vehemently denies this. Oracle was saying that one of the U.S. data center partners that, sort of powers TikTok experienced an outage over the weekend. There's been like horrendous weather around the country. Like, so like they're saying that, who knows, maybe that's a factor in this whole thing. So conspiracy theorists are going to be conspiring. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. One side is always saying the content's suppressed from the other side, so who knows?
That's 100% true, Lauren, that one side is always going to say that they're being suppressed by the other side. I think it is worth noting some of these actual individual complaints that people raise, though, too. Like comedian Meg Stalter, for example, claimed that an anti-ICE video reposted from Instagram failed to upload on TikTok. Other users reported similar stories. One ex-user shared the screenshot that suggests Epstein is now a verboten word on Trump's TikTok. Again, who knows the validity of that or not, but these things are floating around.
What I think is worth noting, that let's just assume that that is true, that content's being suppressed. That means that, like, they were all right. Do you know what I'm saying? That like these platforms are suppressing content to their liking. So it's all fine and good if it's the content that you don't want to see and it's your side politically. But the second it changes, you're like, wait a minute, this is unconstitutional and blah, blah, blah. And it's sort of just like, so they were right. So that's what we're all deciding. So then this is a disaster. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like people are just so obsessed with their own point of view that they're not zooming out and seeing the bigger picture here. So like, if that is true, then what?
Then yes, it validates that this should have been done.
Yes.
But people can still complain and act up about how it's
People
being
gonna
done.
complain no matter what. I'm just saying, like, it's just super. I just think people get so into the weeds about it, and I'm just sort of like, can we zoom out and see that this is a much larger problem?
So allegedly, if that stuff is true, yes, it would validate them doing this for sure.
Yeah.
The entity in charge of the new U.S. app, TikTok USDS joint venture, claimed that technical issues, like you said, Lauren, at a data center caused those glitches. They said on X, quote, "We've made significant progress in recovering our U.S. infrastructure with our U.S. data center partner. However, the U.S. user experience may still have some technical issues, including when posting new content," end quote.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I think what people don't realize, is these platforms break all day, every day, like all the time. And so if they are in fact doing some, I mean, I think this has been in the works for a long time, but let's just say that they're doing some sort of big data transfer. There's going to be glitches. There's going to be stuff that happens.
Sure.
Like it's going to happen. So
yeah, and the people who are uploading pictures of their pasta boiling aren't going to post on X saying, "Oh my God, this is a travesty."
Correct. And so it's, I mean, you might. I know how you love watching pasta boil. It's kind of.
I do think it is worth noting,
you
though.
can't eat it because of gluten, and so you're just like watching it boil. Sorry,
yeah,
go
love
on.
it. I watch. Yes, totally.
Yes.
Time lapses of just regular glutinous pasta boiling. Oh my God, so good. I'm salivating.
Dreams. Go on.
Pavlov's dog. So I think it also is worth noting, though, that like this legislation around TikTok's divestiture has had a lot more politicking around it than just the issue of the Chinese government. For instance, Senator Mark Warner, who's a Democrat from Virginia, urged the congressman turned Palantir exec Mike Gallagher, who was a Republican representing Wisconsin, to tell the real story behind the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. Gallagher then said, "So we had a bipartisan consensus. We had the executive branch, but the bill was still dead until October 7th. And then people started to see a bunch of anti-Semitic content on the platform, and our bill had legs again." I think the people who are claiming that this is not just an issue of power outages are hearkening back to this and saying that the U.S. version of TikTok has kind of always been seen as a check on youth discourse, and are pointing to this as exhibit A of that.
I think it's also worth noting, too, that this week, Google and Meta began a landmark trial in California facing allegations in the Superior Court of California, facing allegations that their addictive platform designs harmed children's mental health. It's going to be about 6 to 8 weeks, and people are talking about how this is going to be, it's going to be like, potentially open the floodgates of so many lawsuits should this go not in their favor. I don't really know how they get out of that, but we'll see. Sorry. Just saying. I mean, like, there's a lot of good things about social, and there's a lot of bad shit about it. So,
I mean, Meta, I get. Google, I would have some pushback on, but yes.
Well, YouTube.
I know, but YouTube, I feel like, has gotten their act together way more than other social platforms.
Sure, but it doesn't mean that they didn't cause mental health issues for certain people prior to getting their act together.
Fair.
I mean, again, I'm talking to somebody who hasn't communicated with their child outside of a screen in ever. So, we all have different ways. Everybody does things differently. Okay, we have Ross Habif, the Chief Strategy Officer at Dhar Mann Studios. They had 2 huge announcements this week, and I'm really excited to dig into the details with him. Welcome to Creator Upload, Ross Habif. You are the Chief Strategy Officer of Dhar Mann Studios.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
There's so many announcements happening with Dhar. First, let's just kick it off. I know you were working really in the weeds on this new deal with Fox and Holywater and Dhar. Can you just give us the high level, tell us about it? It's kind of confusing. There's a lot of players.
There's a lot of layers. There's 3 parties, which always make things a little bit more complicated. We are very excited to be working with Fox and Holywater. Fox is our production partner, and we are creating the content in partnership with them. We're putting it onto Holywater's platform.
Just to back up, it's what is the actual deal? It's how many episodes of...
We're creating 40 films for the platform. These are, call it 60 to 90-minute assets, broken up in the vertical drama, micro drama approach, so that they're broken into segments. But the overall, it's 40 films.
And it's going to be distributed on My Drama.
It is distributed on Holywater's My Drama platform exclusively for the first year.
Oh my gosh. And so what's the goal here, and where does Fox kind of come into play?
I think it's really exciting. I think the goal is that we are tapping into a new way that consumers are consuming media. You're seeing this really big in Asia and China right now. It's coming to the United States. I think there's clearly demand for it. And we are one of the forerunners to bring content to this space. We really know the production model based on what we've been doing on our social platforms, YouTube and Facebook. And we're bringing that model and that idea to a new platform. And I think Fox and Holywater together realized the power of our audience and the power of how we were able to produce content. And we're willing to do a very sizable deal with us compared to basically anybody else because they trust in our ability to produce that content and they trust in our quality of the content we make.
And so these films will be distributed, like, obviously in short form on My Drama. And then is there some sort of, like, I don't know, if somebody pops, you'll just distribute the full thing via Fox or something like that, like the full length feature? Or is that somehow involved in this? Or is it really just like a short sort of microdrama deal?
Long term, I think that we're all open to how to best maximize the viewership of these assets. So we're going to debut on the My Drama platform. But long term, I think there's a willingness to manage distribution and windowing strategies that Fox will lead the efforts for.
I would imagine that's where they would come into play. And I mean, it's just interesting because I think about, being at like in the early days of sort of YouTube, and when YouTube was like investing in, like, we're spending a lot of money investing in different channels, trying to, I think, figure out what works on the platform. So it feels like we're in like a new dawn of that, where like studios are potentially investing in this new type of content, really to educate themselves and see what happens. Would you kind of say that might be?
In terms of our lifetimes, right, we've lived through SVOD, we've lived through now FAST and AVOD platforms. This is the next type of platform. And when you see these launches happen, always it is something that nobody knows is going to come and they're all a little bit skeptical about. But suddenly starts getting traction and investment, and people are willing to experiment and try different things to figure out what works. So being part of that first wave is a pretty incredible spot for us. I mean, obviously, Fox experimenting in that space is not surprising. They have been a long-term studio doing these kinds of things. For us to be making the jump and to be showing that social media and the platform that we've been on, this YouTube platform, Facebook platform, can also make the jump to this kind of new platform is, I think, a testament to where the creator business has come and the kind of things that we have licensed to do.
And Fox, I believe, is an investor in Holywater, right?
Fox made an investment. I don't want to figure out exactly what their investment is or isn't, but yes, Fox is involved. I think they made it their own commitment to provide Holywater with content as well from their studio.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, like, it's just interesting to see like how they're getting into the space and the different like sort of tentacles. Well, super interesting.
Disney also made a play, right? I think Disney invested with or made a small play with DramaVox. To participate there as well. Fox made a much bigger statement with Holywater, though.
No, for sure. And so when are we expected to see this content? Do we have a timeline?
I mean, the anticipation is that by the middle of this year, we will have our first batch of content up on this platform.
Oh my God, super exciting.
It's really exciting. It's a real big opportunity, not only again for Holywater and Fox, but I think it's a great way for Dhar Mann to be expanding its presence outside of the social platforms.
Well, I think the listeners will know that I've spent some time, in the trenches with Dhar Mann, and so I think it's really exciting to see, all of the ways. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of like, what's going to happen. He's obviously doing really well with how he built his business, but how is this going to expand? What is this going to look like? So this feels right to me, and it feels like time.
Yeah, well, we just did the Samsung TV Plus deal, maybe now 4 months ago, and I think it's just the next step, right? We are exploring how to best bring this brand and the content we're making to other audiences. Samsung TV Plus allowed us to foray into that fast space and to experiment on how linear viewing would work in a TV first environment. This now is a way for us to come back to the mobile space that is predominantly where vertical drama is being watched. So it's a new format, a new platform, but it is very much what we are doing, right? We're expanding past that origination point. Our core business continues to be YouTube and Facebook, but we're always open to how do we reach our audience in other places.
So I can imagine that like Dhar might have, having such a huge footprint and being so successful, he might have his choice of partners in the space. Is there any particular reason why you like went with this sort of Fox and Holywater kind of partnership over others?
We spoke to just about everybody that's in the space. I think that everybody was excited about the ability that we had to produce unique content, that they've seen what we've been able to do, and they recognize that it kind of fit the vertical drama model. So we had a lot of different potential partners. Fox was more innovative, as was Holywater, in their ambition to do something a little bit new, not necessarily be beholden to only what worked in the Asian markets. They gave us a lot more creative independence in the conversation. And because we retain 100% of our ownership and creative autonomy, it just ended up being the clear winner here compared to anybody else.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Oh yeah, no question. Well, not to be outdone, you had another announcement this week. Maybe we could have spread these out a little bit. I mean, just throwing it out there. But Dhar was just named NFL's Chief Kindness Officer. I don't know how much you worked on this, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about this. Like, sorry, what does that mean, and what should we expect from this innovative new partnership?
Yeah, well, Dhar is the creator of the week for the NFL coming into Super Bowl week and the Chief Kindness Officer, doing things like being at the Super Bowl, in addition to leading a variety of events and experiences, bringing creators in and working with them across some of the things that, whether it's the NFL flag football or other things that are in that category. It's very much about sportsmanship and about recognizing the value of sportsmanship in any of these competitions.
Well, what a week you guys have had at Dhar Mann Studios.
It has been busy, and what's exciting is there's more to come. So
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to have two massive announcements in the same week next week, but there are more announcements on the way.
But you never know. All right. Thank you so much for joining. And we'll look out for those announcements.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Good times.
Thank you again so much, Ross. I'm really psyched to watch the Super Bowl. Who doesn't need a Chief Kindness Officer? I mean, I sure do. I'm just going to be watching the Super Bowl for Dhar Mann content.
I'm stoked on this because Dhar Mann is the perfect creator to be making microdramas.
100%.
His program is already basically a long-form microdrama. And so he just needs to chop those things up. I mean, not just, I get it. That's not what microdramas are. Don't come at me in the DMs.
P.S. It kind of is.
Maybe it kind of is. Okay.
It kind of is. It's like 90 minutes that you can chop up into like 15-second increment or whatever, minute long, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but the good ones probably have a little bit more thought put into them than just doing that, Lauren.
Okay. I want to jump on with Madison really quickly and talk about what she's been up to with Creator Society. Madison Weaver, welcome to Creator Upload.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. So you are the co-founder and CMO of the Creator Society, which I want you to tell us a little bit about that. But I really wanted to have you on because you were talking to me recently about this really interesting project that you have going 11 to midnight, which is a very fascinating, call it case study of creators transforming their social presence into another sort of venue. In this case, it's Off-Broadway. So give us the log line of Creator Society, but then I would really love to get into the origin story of this show.
Amazing. Yeah. So the Creator Society is a talent management company, and we work alongside creators to elevate their business in a multitude of ways. And I think that 11 to Midnight really exemplifies that for our agency, which we are so excited about. And 11 to Midnight is an off-Broadway dance show in New York City created by Cost and Mayer, who are TikTok, Instagram dancers, choreographers. And they really, started in 2020. They were part of that group of creators that started dancing on TikTok, and they were living in Meredith's mom's attic and just dancing and creating. And it was always their dream. They lived in New York pre-COVID and were pursuing dancing in New York. And so it was always their dream to be on stage in New York City. And as they've continued to grow as creators, their passion has been in choreography. And so when they kind of conceptualized an initial idea and started taking it to some producers in New York City, and the first idea that we took to the producers of the show, Hideaway Circus, didn't end up panning out. We just kind of left that idea behind and kept working on a new idea, which is now 11 to Midnight. And we started talking with the producers at the end of 2024, and we're conceptualizing and creating the Pinterest boards and what's the vibe and what's the plot line. And in March of 2025, I actually flew out to New York to start workshopping the show. And by September, we had cast all of the dancers in the show and done an online casting call which was really cool. I think we had like 500 submissions and we only took 5 dancers all across the country. And there's some really cool stories from the dancers that were chosen for the show, which is really cool and unique.
Talk a little bit about the sort of how their social presence on TikTok sort of like contributed to them getting a show, and what were they doing alongside sort of developing a show? Like, I feel like obviously there's a direct correlation between like them sort of growing on the platform and being able to like, get a show, which I think to some sort of like purists might be a little bit sort of difficult pill to swallow. Like you've got to have this sort of presence on social in order to kind of, get a show. But like, tell us how that sort of like went hand in hand.
Here's the thing. Austin and Meredith are TikTok creators, yes, and they are social media creators and whatever term we want to maybe coin them by. But at the end of the day, they aren't good because they were on TikTok. They were dancers pre-TikTok. They were choreographers pre-TikTok. They went viral because they were good at it. So they just have an audience now. And so I think when we look at creators and the different, Addison Rae, she went from creator to musical artist and is performing. And I think people question the validity of creators who go from social media to having this opportunity. But I think that is why a lot of creators build these platforms, is in order to do what they actually ultimately, what they ultimately want to do.
Did Broadway or Off-Broadway come calling, or they like, how did that sort of work? Because I actually think it's a really positive case study as to your point about like how you can use social to sort of realize your dreams. So can you just speak a little bit about that?
It was all them. They were pitching themselves. They were reaching out to producers. It's actually funny because they had auditioned for a show that the producers they are working with were casting for in New York, I think pre-COVID, and were cut from the first round of auditions, which is really funny and interesting to look back on now that they're working together. But they did the work. We had contacts and definitely introduced them and put them in front of people where we could. But ultimately, they just cold pitched and reached out and said, hey, we're costume mayor and we have an idea and we want to talk. Can we set a meeting in New York? So obviously, the validity of their name that they have and the capabilities that they are able to show their resume, that helped them get them in the door. But they just went out there and took a shot.
Right. And so they have 7.6 million TikTok followers and about 2.6 million Instagram followers. And so when does the show open?
February 11th. We're actually in previews right now. So their first show was last night, which is wild. I still have not heard back. I'm like, how did it go?
That's amazing. Josh, do you have questions?
Yeah, I think this is super cool. Madison, can you just go into the economics of this? So they have a 12-week run, and then is the idea where if that goes well, it continues, or it's kind of 12 weeks and done? Is this like a first step? They wanted to kind of prove themselves with this show, and then they have a stake in the ground on Off-Broadway, Broadway, and the theater space that they can build from in the future. Tell us like how the economics work and the business plan moving forward.
Yeah, ultimately, we would love to be in the Orpheum for as long as we can be. I don't know if you know the history of the Orpheum Theater, but it's actually really cool and interesting because the Orpheum is what housed Stomp for the entirety of its run, which was also a dance-forward show. And so we don't, right now we have 12 weeks. We would love for it to be longer. But that's the first goal. I think that there's conversations of touring it, maybe in 2027. But ultimately, we would love to keep doing this and create more shows. I think they have so many ideas and they're brilliant. Like the marketing behind what they do in their content creation and then the way that they thought about building in public for 11 to Midnight has been brilliant. And just every single piece of it has been so interesting and intriguing. And so, this is definitely a case study, but at the end of the day, this is their baby. And I think whatever we can do and wherever we can take this is the dream.
Madison, where do people go to find out about the show?
They can go to 11tomidnight.com. It's the number 11, tomidnight.com. Also on Instagram, TikTok, or just, buy a ticket and head to the Orpheum Theater.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Madison. This is great. Excited to check it out.
Go check out 11 to Midnight on Broadway. I think it sounds amazing. Very excited for them. We'll see how that goes, and excited to see all the things happening with the creators on other platforms, including Broadway and Off-Broadway.
Speaking of another big creator, Lauren, Khaby Lame in this upload just got a deal that is being reported as being worth $975 million to Khaby. So here's what happened. He basically sold a controlling stake in his core business to Rich Sparkle Holdings. Under the agreement, Rich Sparkle secures exclusive rights for 36 months to manage and monetize Lame's digital presence. That includes live stream income, short-form video strategy, supply chain operations, and brand partnerships. The company says Lame will also be a controlling shareholder. What are they a controlling shareholder in? Well, Rich Sparkle Holdings is a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ capital markets. And everybody's been reporting this at face value. It seems like it's a big deal. It sounds a little bit interesting to me. I think the purported potential value of this could be worth $975 million. It's not like Khaby Lame is pocketing $975 million right now. And also, I'm curious about like how this deal comes to be and what it actually means. So I spoke with my friend who works at a hedge fund in media and didn't get clearance from his PR team yet to talk about it. So I'm just going to give you the nature.
He worked on this deal?
Didn't work on this deal, but works in media.
Got it. Okay.
And didn't get clearance from his PR team to talk about this particular component yet.
Okay.
So sources unnamed, I'll basically tell you the gist of our convo. And he actually likes this deal. He thinks it's cool because now fans of Khaby Lame can basically invest in Khaby Lame now through a publicly traded equity. And I was talking to him about the valuation here, and he said, okay, let's break it down. How much do we think Khaby Lame makes a year? We settled with doing 2 minutes of research because you can't really tell about these things.
And that tracks for like how you like to go deep. Go.
Somewhere between like
that long.
16 and 20 million bucks a year is what's been reported.
Sure.
So 20 million bucks a year, you put that valuation, you like 10x that for a potential valuation, and you extrapolate that over 3.5 years for this deal, and it gets up to around like $700 million. And so if Rich Sparkle Holdings thinks that they can make a little bit more than that, this makes sense. That $975 million value does make sense.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I get it. I don't get it. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
All right, Josh, I think we did it.
Lauren, I think that's it. I'll see you trying to live stream this Meta and YouTube trial in California Supreme Court over their alleged harm to children's mental health just for the local PTA.
It's like, where's this plane? Where's this plane gonna last?
I got it there ish.
Got it there. I feel like it would have been better if it were like for your kids or something like that. That would have been a better.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
I could see you just orchestrating something for the PTA. You have a
Sure.
watch party.
Yeah.
And if not there next week on Creator Upload. Today's show was produced by Lauren Schnipper, Joshua Cohen, that's me, and Adam Connor. It's edited by Adam Connor too. Original music is by London Bridge. You can check him out on Instagram at London Bridge Music. Make sure you subscribe to Creator Upload right here on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, as well Spotify, or wherever you're listening. While you're there, give us a rating and leave us a comment. If you want to talk, hit us up at info@creatorupload.com. If you like our show, recommend it to a friend. If you love it, just tell everyone. Thanks for listening to Creator Upload, and we will be back next week.